Lee Junho died at 23:47 on Wednesday. Not heroically, not meaningfully. Walking home through the alley between the subway station and his apartment, the same route for the last 3 years, 5 minutes on foot, past one street lamp that had long stopped working and one coffee shop that closed at 11. The manhole cover was shifted about 20 centimeters, no more. Someone had opened it and hadn't closed it. In the darkness of the alley, it was invisible. He placed his right foot exactly into that gap. The fall took a second. Then darkness. Then nothing. The system he had never seen in life displayed one notification in the darkness. Carrier, Lee Junho. Death recorded. Activation condition, non-standard rebirth. Reason, accidental death without intent. System compensation. Form selection, automatic. Nearest living entity at point of rebirth. Nearest living entity. Oak, 47 years old, forest zone. Rebirth. Activated. The first thing he felt was the earth. Not as a surface, as part of himself. The earth entered him from below through roots, through thousands of small threads going meters deep. Water in it, minerals, dead organic matter decomposing into nutrients. All of it flowed upward slowly, constantly, without effort. Then air. Leaves. He felt every one, more than 700, each separately. They caught light and did something with it. He didn't understand at first what. Then he understood. Photosynthesis. He was doing photosynthesis, right now. It was strangely pleasant. A quiet, constant process of turning light into something. Then a thought. I am a tree. The thought was calmer than he had expected. Maybe because trees have no adrenaline. Maybe because the mind adapts to what is. I am a tree, an oak in a forest, and I am Lee Junho. The system appeared. White text in the place where a field of vision used to be. Now there was something else. Not vision, perception. He felt the space around him within a radius of roughly 20 meters through roots and air. Evolution system. Tree of life carrier. Name prior to rebirth irrelevant. Assign new name upon first contact with sentient beings. Form. Oak, 47 years. Height, 14 meters. Bark age, medium. Root system, developed. Class. Living tree, stage 1. Experience. EXP. 0/100. First evolution is far off. Available skills. Root grasp, passive. Control of roots within a 3-meter radius. Speed. Slow. Accuracy, low. Note. System activates upon gaining EXP through interaction with the environment, elimination of threats, survival. He read it slowly. Root grasp. Radius 3 meters. Speed slow. He tried, carefully, the way one tries to move a finger after long numbness. The root near the surface of the earth, the one that protruded on the northern side, shifted slightly. Rose a centimeter. Lay back down. It works. He didn't know yet what it was for. He found out soon. By the 3rd day, he had already begun to feel the forest. More precisely, a boar arrived. Not a magical one, an ordinary one. Large, with yellow tusks, angry from hunger. It found the bark of a young tree 100 meters away and stripped a length of it. Then came closer, toward him. Old oak bark is tougher, but the tusks managed. Kim Junho, he had already begun to think of himself as a tree enough to understand the difference. Felt the contact through the bark. Pain. Yes, something like pain. Dull, slow, like a blow to a numb spot. Root grasp, he thought. The boar stood 2 meters away. He moved a root, the one that protruded at the surface, the thinnest, the most manageable. Slowly. The boar didn't notice. Too busy with the bark, the root coiled around its hind leg. The boar felt it, lurched, squealed. Struck with a hoof. The root held, not tightly, enough. The boar pulled, the root pulled back, a few seconds. Then the boar fell, awkwardly, onto its side. Not dead. Alive, angry, thrashing. Now what? He had no claws, no teeth. He had only one more root. Thicker, with a sharp broken edge somewhere underground. A sharp edge. He pulled it upward slowly, with effort. The boar thrashed. The root emerged from the earth. Sharp end out. It went down. The boar died. System: EXP plus 15. Total: 15 over 100. First elimination of a threat recorded. Debut: bonus, plus 5 EXP. Skill: root grasp upgrade. Radius increased to 4 meters. He looked at the dead boar, with roots, not eyes, with perception. The body lay beside the roots. Slowly he felt the roots reaching toward it on their own, biologically. Organic matter. Nourishment. 3 days later, nothing remained of the boar. EXP, plus 8 for organic absorption. Total, 28 over 100. At night, the forest was quiet. The roots felt only small things: worms, mice, the movement of water in the soil. And he thought, I am Lee Junho. I was 26 years old. I worked in the logistics department of a company that transported construction materials. I ate ramen on Tuesdays. I read web novels on the subway. Now I am a tree. And I have a system. He thought about the system methodically, the way he used to think about logistics schemes. Input data. He is a tree. He has roots and branches and leaves. Output data, judging by the system. Evolution. To where? Class. Living tree, stage 1. Stage 1 meant there was a stage 2 and beyond. Dryad. The word surfaced on its own. He had read enough fantasy to know the concept. Spirit of a tree, a humanoid being. If this was the direction of evolution, then at the end he would again resemble a human. How long? Unknown. But the system was working, which meant there was a path. Good, he decided. We start from the beginning. Survival, experience, evolution, step by step. On the 20th day, the first human came to him. Not an adventurer, an old man. A mushroom picker with a basket, in a worn cloak. He walked through the forest along a path 30 meters away, stopped at a young birch tree, began collecting honey mushrooms. Kim Junho watched. With roots, he felt the footsteps through the earth, light, uneven, not a threat, but a human, the first one. The old man stopped at his tree, looked up at the crown, said something quietly in a language Kim Junho did not know, then left. But he left behind a trace. A language. Not Korean. Different. The sounds were different. Kim Junho memorized the sounds and began building patterns. He had plenty of time and no hurry. The system helped. Passive skill. Linguistic absorption unlocked. Carrier is capable of memorizing and analyzing language patterns through acoustic perception. Current language. Irradian. Basic level in 14 days of regular contact. Note. Through roots. Absorption of speech vibrations from the earth upon direct contact of the speaker's feet with the soil. Efficiency. High. 14 days. Good. A month later, EXP reached 100. First evolution. Options: 1 branching mind. Expanded branch control. Radius 8 meters. Accuracy high, speed medium. New skill: tree thorns. Branches can form sharp outgrowths. 2 root network. Expansion of the root system. Perception radius 30 meters. New skill: nutrient absorption. Accelerated absorption of organic matter. 3. Seed of consciousness. First step toward humanization. Formation of a primitive facial outgrowth in the bark. Intellect, plus 20%. New skill: voice. Projection. Vibration through bark imitates sound. He read it 3 times. Third option: seed of consciousness. A face in the bark, a voice. This was the path to humanization, but too early, without protection. Second, perception. Important, but passive. First, combat. Branches, thorns, radius. 8 meters. In this world, I don't yet know what is dangerous, he thought. The boar was not the last. Protection is needed before curiosity. First, he said, not aloud, with intent. The branches responded immediately. as if they had been waiting. He felt them anew, each branch separately, with its weight and flexibility and speed. The thinnest ones, fast, precise. The thickest ones, slow, powerful, thorns. He tried one branch, medium. He focused on the tip. The bark began to crack from within, slowly. A sharp outgrowth emerged, whitish, hard as bone. Good. The second human who came was different. Not a mushroom picker. Young, with a staff, in a blue robe with embroidery along the edges. He walked purposefully, straight toward the clearing beside him, sat on a stone, opened a book, and began working with magic. Kim Junho observed through perception, and for the first time saw the magic system of this world from the inside. The young mage, a student judging by the uncertainty of his movements, was doing something with the air around his hands. Not from nothing. Kim Junho felt through the roots how he was drawing something from the earth, not water, not minerals. Something else. Subtle, almost invisible, like current in a wire. Mana, he identified. He is drawing mana from the earth. The system confirmed. A new notification, observation. World Magic System, recorded. Magic, a radiant system. Principle, the mage extracts natural mana from the surrounding environment through a personal channel, the arcane. Extraction speed depends on the width of the arcane. An innate property, trainable. Usage, mana is shaped into spells through verbal commands, words of power, and gestures, seals. Without both components, a spell is unstable. Limitation, a mage cannot use more mana than extracted. The personal reservoir is finite, replenished through rest and contact with natural sources. Carrier feature, the tree is a natural mana accumulator. Current volume, low. As EXP grows, accumulation increases. He reread the last line. The tree is a natural mana accumulator. He himself is a source of mana. The student at the stone grew frustrated. The spell didn't work, something went wrong in the seal. He closed the book and started over. Kim Junho watched carefully, memorizing the words of power, the gestures, the sequence. Does linguistic absorption work on magical formulas too? System. Confirmed. Magical formulas are a structured language. Absorption is possible. Warning. Carrier does not possess an arcane in the standard sense. Mana channel, root system. Magic usage, non-standard, through roots and branches. Formulas adapt. Note. This is unique. No analogs recorded. The student spent 3 hours on the clearing. By the end, something was beginning to work for him. A small flame on his palm. Unstable, but alive. He looked at it with such joy that Kim Junho felt something resembling fondness. When the student left, Kim Junho began to practice. Mana from the earth. Draw it through the roots. Direct it into a branch. Feel how it moves. EXP. +3 for magic practice, +2 for observation. Slow, he thought. But it works. EXP. 480 over 500. 20 points until the second evolution. Over 3 months he had killed 7 boars, 2 swamp creatures that came from the lowlands, 1 mountain wolf mutant. This one cost 30 EXP in a broken branch. 1 magical snake that for some reason attacked the bark. Perhaps it sensed the mana. The forest around him had changed. Not visibly, internally. The root network had spread to 12 meters. He felt every tree within radius, not thoughts, presence. The other trees were not alive the way he was, but through root networks they transmitted information. The old language of the forest, slow without words. Danger signals, movement of water, approach of creatures. He had become part of the forest, and the forest had become his eyes. Second evolution. 500 EXP options. 1 forest guardian, physical reinforcement. Bark hardens to the level of metal. Branches, speed high, accuracy high. New skill, thorn barrier. A ring of thorns around the trunk, radius 10 meters, activated on command. 2 seed of consciousness. First step toward humanization. A face in the bark, a voice, primary humanization of form. Features take shape. Intellect plus 30%. Skill. Mana manipulation through verbal commands. 3. Forest. Mind. Expanded connection with the forest. Control of trees within a 50-meter radius as an extension of self. Skill. Sleep spores. Release of magical spores, radius 15 meters. He thought longer than the first time. Second option. Humanization begins. A voice. A face. Mana manipulation, verbally. This is critically important if I want to interact with people. But I am not yet ready for people. I don't know enough about this world. And I don't have sufficient protection. First option is protection. Third is territory control. Or the second, and accept the vulnerability for a time. The student mage came to the clearing once a week. He heard his conversations with himself, with his book, once with a friend who came along. After 3 months, he understood Aradian well enough to follow the meaning. The world was called Aradia, or the country was called Aradia. He hadn't sorted that out precisely yet. There were adventurers, a guild, ranks from F to S. There were monsters. They were called the Vile, considered spawn of a magical rift in the south, an old one, never closed. There were mages, warriors, various classes. There was a city 2 hours' walk to the west. It was called Veldmar. There was the forest, this forest, which the locals called the Gray Forest. Not because it was gray, because people disappeared in it. Not often, but they did. Now I know why, he thought. The Vile come from the south through the forest. He chose the second option. Seed of consciousness. The change was slow and unpleasant. The bark on the northern side of the trunk began to crack from within. For 3 days, the crack spread. On the fourth, features formed. Indistinct, rough, like a mask made of wood. 2 hollows where eyes would be. No pupils, dark. The line of a mouth, straight. The shape of a nose was suggested. The student came to the clearing that same day. He saw. He stood 2 meters away, looked for a long time, then slowly raised his hand with the staff. "Don't be afraid," said Kim Junho. It came out poorly, vibration through bark. The words were right in sound but rough as bark itself. Not a human voice, something in between. The student dropped his staff. "I am not vile," Kim Junho added. The student stared, then picked up his staff, then sat down on his stone, slowly without looking away. "You speak," he said, in a hoarse voice. 3 months listening. Learning. "You're a tree." "Yes." "Trees don't speak." "This tree speaks," said Kim Junho. Now, the student was silent for a long time. "What is your name?" he asked at last. The system instantly. First contact with a sentient being. Name assignment activated. Enter a name for this world. He thought for a second. A name that sounds like this world. Not Lee Junho. That stayed somewhere else. Something new. Iron, he said. "My name is Iron." The name appeared in the system. Recorded. "Iron," the student repeated. "I am Kale Visser, 3rd-year student of the Veldmar Academy." "I know," said Iron. "I heard." 3 months. Kyle looked at him. "You were listening to me for 3 months. Learning the language, learning magic." Pause. "You do the 3rd level seal poorly. The little finger should be straighter." Silence. Then Kale laughed. Nervously, with a hysterical edge, but he laughed. Kale came every day. At first with the look of a man unsure whether the dream was still continuing. Then with a notebook. Then with food that he left at the roots and that Aaron absorbed slowly, overnight. They talked. Kale told him about the world. Aaron listened and built a map. Careful, detailed. Aradia, a country on the western continent. A monarchy, with the Guild Council as a second center of power. Adventurers, a legal class, registered with the Guild, fulfilling contracts for clearing the Vile, scouting, escorting, finding artifacts. Ranks, F, E, D, C, B, A, S, rare. SS, theoretically. The Vile, monsters from the rift in the south. The rift opened 112 years ago. Attempts to close it were made. None succeeded. Creatures varied, from small scavengers to large command beasts. The Grey Forest, formerly a danger zone, not recommended for adventurers below rank D, but the resources in it are valuable. Herbs, timber, magical ingredients. People come. Were you always a tree? Kale asked one day. Pause. No. What were you? Aaron thought. How to explain another world to someone from this one? A person. Far from here. Pause. Died. Was born here. Reincarnation, said Kale. Without surprise. In this world, it turned out, such things were possible. Rarely, but known. And you remember your past life? Yes. That is very rare, said Kale. Usually the memory is lost. Lucky? Or not, said Kale quietly. Then quickly, depending on how you look at it. From my side it is useful, said Iron. I have something to remember. Kale looked at the face in the bark. It had grown clearer over the weeks, the features taking shape. Already a person was suggested. Young, sharp cheekbones, a straight nose. You are changing, said Kale. Every week you look a little more like a human. Yes. Where does it lead? Forward, said Iron. Over half a year, the world around had changed. Kale had brought 3 friends, other students of the academy. All of them reacted according to a similar pattern. First fear, then disbelief, then habit. The talking tree in the Grey Forest became their secret. They came to practice magic in the clearing, and Iron observed and occasionally commented. He accumulated EXP for destroying the vial, for magic practice, for growth. Third evolution. 1,500 EXP options. 1 mobile roots. Roots detach from the earth for a short time. Movement up to 5 meters from the original spot. Attachment to the original location is preserved. 2 dryad transformation. Partial humanization. Arms form fully from the trunk, fully functional. The trunk is preserved as the primary form. New skill. Plant manipulation. Control of nearby vegetation as an extension of the body. Magic rank, E. 3. Full manifestation. Separation of a humanoid avatar from the trunk. The avatar can move up to 20 meters away. The avatar is weaker than the primary body. The trunk is vulnerable without the avatar. He chose the second. The hands emerged slowly from the bark, along the sides of the trunk. First the shape, then the details. Fingers. Joints. The bark on them thin, almost skin. Grayish-green with the texture of wood but flexible. The first thing he did with the hands was pick up a stone. Just picked it up. Held it. Put it down. System. XP plus 10 for first use of physical limbs. Skill, plant manipulation, active. Radius, 15 meters. Young trees, bushes, grass, controllable. Old trees, partially. Magic rank, E. To increase. Study. Words of power and seals adapted for plant form. Kale came that same day and saw the hands. Stopped halfway to the clearing. That's new, he said. Yes. You're growing fast. I kill the tainted, said Iron. It helps. Kale came closer, looked at the hands with the curiosity of an architect examining a new structure. May I? He extended his hand. Iron extended his. They shook hands, a man and a tree. Warm, said Kale. Surprised. I thought it would be cold. Mana flows through the hands, said Aaron. That gives warmth. Kale looked at their clasped hands. Iron, he said slowly. Do you want to leave the forest? A long pause. Yes. When? When I'm ready. What does ready mean? Iron looked at him with a face of bark, eyes as hollows that now had something resembling pupils. Dark green dots. When I can walk through Veldmar without frightening people, he said. Kyle looked. That's a difficult bar. Yes, 1 year after rebirth. Aaron had killed 27 tainted, including 2 B-rank creatures that came in a pack. It cost part of the crown, 1 large branch broken, regrown within a month. It cost fear. For the first time he felt he could lose, and that was unexpectedly painful for a being without a nervous system in the human sense. He had studied 18 words of power, adapted the seals for hands made of wood. Not all of them worked. Some required modification. Kyle helped, brought academy textbooks, read aloud, explained the theory. Kyle had become a fourth-year student, more confident. The seals no longer trembled. Iron heard him explain to a friend once that he had found a good place to practice in the forest. 3 other students came less often but still came. One of them, a girl, Liv, with earth affinity, once asked if she could lean against his trunk while meditating. He said yes. She sat for 2 hours and said she had never meditated so well. Your mana is stable, he explained. Wood is an accumulator. Through contact, you equalize the flow. You know the theory better than our professors, said Liv. I've had time to study. 3000 XP. 4th evolution. Options. 1 Forest Guardian. Full combat form. Height 20 meters. Bark armor, S-class against physical damage. Forest control within a radius of 200 meters. Drawback, binding to the forest intensifies. 2 Dryad. Stage 1. Significant humanization. Avatar separates to a distance of up to 100 meters. Avatar looks like a human with plant traits. Green hair, bark as skin under stress, eyes without whites. Trunk preserved as the base. Ability to conceal plant nature, partial. Magic rank, D3, symbiosis. Merging with the forest. Iron becomes the forest, not a tree. Enormous power. Irreversible. Partial loss of individuality. The third option he didn't even consider. The first, power without mobility. Binding to the forest. The second, avatar. 100 meters. Resembles a human. Conceal nature partially. This is the first step outward. Second, the transformation took 3 days. On the third day, from the base of the trunk, where the roots went into the ground, a figure began to form. Slowly, like a sculptor working from within the material. Legs first, going down into the roots. Then the torso. Then the shoulders. The head last. The avatar stood beside the trunk, connected to it by a thin thread at the base of the spine, almost invisible. He looked at his hands through the avatar, for the first time seeing them not as branches of a tree, but as limbs. Tall, 180, proportional. Skin grayish-green with a faint pattern of bark beneath the surface. Hair dark with a green tint. Eyes dark green, without whites, with a vertical pupil. Clearly non-human. But close, he thought. Closer than a tree. Kyle came an hour later. Saw the avatar standing in the middle of the clearing. Stopped. Iron? Yes, said the avatar. The voice better than through bark. Cleaner. Still with a note of wood, as if speaking in a large wooden space. Kale approached. Walked around the avatar in a circle. Is that you? Part of me. The trunk is also me. A pause. Simultaneously. What is it like to be two? Like reading 2 books in parallel, said Iron. Difficult at first. Then normal. Kale stood before him. You can leave the forest, he said. No, 100-meter radius. Beyond 100 meters from the trunk, the avatar shuts off. And the trunk? The trunk stays. Iron. Kale looked at him. The trunk can be transplanted. A long pause. Yes, said Aaron slowly. Why didn't I think of that? Transplanting into a pot? No, too small. But with a root ball. If done carefully, oaks are transplanted. Kale spoke quickly, lighting up. I looked into it. There's a plant relocation spell at the academy, Class D. We covered it in 3rd year. With several mages, it's possible. Where to? Closer to Veldmar, the forest edge to the west. There are trees there too, no one goes there. The distance from the forest to the city is less than a kilometer at that point, Iron thought. Transplanting. A risk. Roots will partially tear. Stress. Possible loss of XP. But Veldmar. People. Information. Opportunities. I need to think, he said. Of course. Kale sat on a stone. But Aaron, you're ready. You speak, you think, you have a form. He looked at the avatar. You can become an adventurer. People will see me. Eyes without whites. The skin. Disguise artifacts exist, said Kale. They alter appearance. Expensive, but they exist. Where does the money come from? Sell something from the forest, Kyle shrugged. You know where magical herbs grow in the gray forest. I know who to sell to in the city. Once is enough for a basic artifact. Aaron looked at him through the avatar without blinking. Kale. Yes? Why do you need this? Kale was quiet. Honestly, he said at last, you explain magic to me better than any professor at the academy. You helped me pass the exam to 4th year. I understood the principle of the double seal right here, from you. A pause. And you're interesting. You're not like everyone else. A pause. And you're my friend. Probably. Probably? We never officially discussed it, said Kale, slightly embarrassed. Iron looked at him through the avatar. We're discussing it, he said. Officially. Kyle smiled. 4 came. Kale, Liv, and 2 other students with Earth affinity. Liv was the best of them. Her affinity let her feel the roots and work with them carefully. They worked for half a day. Iron was silent, focusing on the roots, releasing the tension, letting the earth let go. It required control. Instinct said, hold on. Reason said, let go. When the root ball rose, he felt the tearing of several peripheral roots. Pain, dull, deep. System, XP-50 for transplant stress. Current XP, 2,950. Warning, recovery period 2 weeks. During this period, regeneration speed is reduced. They carried him slowly through the forest to the western edge. 2 hours of movement. Kale walked alongside and talked about something inconsequential. The weather, a professor who gave him a C for practical work, a new tavern that had opened in the city. Iron listened. They set him down. The soil of the western edge was different, lighter, with the smell of the nearby city. He felt it immediately as the roots entered it. Liv wove the spell. The roots went in correctly, deeply, found water. Iron exhaled, not literally. The trunk settled slightly lower, the branches spread out. Home. New, different, but home. How are you? Asked Kale. Alive, said the avatar. Thank you. Liv touched the bark. Nodded. Took root. Good. How far to the city? Asked Aaron through the avatar. 800 meters by road, said Kale. But your radius is 100 meters? The disguise artifact. I'll take care of it, said Kale. Give me a week. The disguise artifact was small, a bronze bracelet with runes. Worn on the avatar's wrist, it altered the perception of those around, not reality, perception. Eyes saw normal whites. Skin appeared as ordinary human skin, hair dark without the green tint. Iron looked at himself through a reflection in a puddle. An ordinary young man. Tall, sharp features, dark hair, not handsome in the conventional sense. Interesting. It works, said Kale from behind his shoulder. Almost perfectly. Though if a mage with high perception looks, they might sense it. The aura can't be fully hidden. How does it differ? Your aura is plant-based. Earth mana, stable, large volume, Kale thought. Say you're a forest mage. It's a rare class, but it exists. The aura will match. Forest mage. Mages who specialize in nature magic often live outside cities. Rarely register with the guild. A pause. No one will be surprised by oddities. Iron nodded. A name. Iron will do. A surname? Root, he said. From roots. Iron Root. Forest mage. Kale nodded. Sounds right. They entered Veldmar at noon. Iron walked and looked at the city. The first city he had seen in a year and a half. Not through the eyes of a tree, not through the perception of roots. Through the eyes of the avatar. Full vision, color, detail. Veldmar was a mid-sized trading city. Stone buildings 3 to 4 stories, paved streets, a market in the center, the smell of bread and horses and metal. People. Many people, different, armed and not. Adventurers were recognizable by the guild badges on their clothing. He walked and absorbed everything. Sounds, smells, data. Lee Junho had been a logistics analyst. Iron Root, a forest mage. But both observed before they acted. The guild is here. Kale nodded toward a building with a sign, a sword and scroll. Do you want to register today? No. A pause. Look first. Look at what? At everything. He visited the guild 3 days later. Adventurer registration. Standard procedure. Name, class, affinity. The guild's perception mage, an elderly man with a tired gaze, took his hand and closed his eyes for a minute. Forest mage, nature affinity, rank E, said the mage. Large mana volume for an E. Non-standard channel, root type. Rare, but it happens with those who've lived outside cities. Opened his eyes. Everything is in order. Welcome to the guild, rank E. A badge, simple metal with the letter E, fell into his hand. His first day as an adventurer he spent in the guild hall. Listening, observing, he had more advantages than any newcomer. A year of observation in the forest, magic theory from Kale, understanding of the tainted through combat. Groups. Adventurers worked in groups. Loners rarely, only high rank. He needed a group. On the second day he saw the notice board. One of the postings read, "Seeking a mage for a D-rank group. Contract for tainted clearance in the Grey Forest, Southern Sector. 3 members, need a 4th. Payment by result. Riv, Veldmar Guild. The Grey Forest. His forest." He took the notice off the board. Riv turned out to be a woman of about 30. Short red hair, leather armor, 2 short swords crossed on her back. Group leader. Gaze quick, assessing. "You're E," she said. "The posting was for D." "I know. Then why did you come?" "The Grey Forest," said Aaron. "I know it better than any D rank." "You've been there." "I live there." Riv looked at him. "Forest mage," she read from his registration card. "Non-standard channel, nature affinity." A pause. "What can you do?" "Plant manipulation." "Root captures." "Mana manipulation through words of power, adapted for nature affinity." A pause. "And navigation through the Grey Forest without a map." "The last one is interesting," said Riv. "2 of us have already led groups there, got lost once." "There are no paths in the Grey Forest that don't change," said Aaron. "The root system shifts the soil. A stable path today is a deadfall tomorrow." Riv looked at him for a long time. "1 trial contract," she said. "If you manage, we take you." A pause. "Pay at E rank, not D." Agreed. The other 2, Tom, a warrior of about 25, quiet, with a 2-handed sword. And Sina, archer, D rank, air affinity, sharp tongue and sharp eyes. They left the city the following morning. The Grey Forest received him differently. Through the avatar, not as part of itself, but as a guest. It was a strange sensation. He felt the forest through the trunk at the edge, through the root networks, but saw it through the eyes of the avatar. And that was simultaneously familiar and foreign. Like reading a book he already knew by heart, but for the first time aloud. "Have you been here before?" asked Riv. She moved like someone accustomed to dangerous places, quietly, with a constant assessment of the perimeter. "Yes." "Do you know the map?" "Better than a map." Tom walked behind, silent, as always. Sena kept to the right, bow already in hand, arrow on the string but not drawn. Professional. Iron led them through the root networks. He felt the forest within the trunk's radius, but the avatar was already 80 meters from the trunk. The boundary. He felt it physically, like a taut thread. Beyond 100 meters, the avatar would begin to weaken. Beyond 120, it would shut off. He needed to keep the root within the radius. The contract was simple. Clear 5 nests of scavenger tainted in the southern sector. D rank, standard. Scavenger tainted. Small, pack-based, dangerous in numbers. 1-on-1 and F rank can handle it. A nest of 20 already needs a C. "Nests are usually near water," said Iron. "We know," said Riv. "Is there a gray stream here?" 2. 1 to the northeast, clean. The second to the south, closer to the rift. More tainted there. The contract is the southern sector." "I know." Riv looked at him. "You look like someone who isn't very eager to go there." "I am eager to go there," said Iron. "I'm not eager to go there without understanding exactly what's waiting for us. That's called adventurer work. That's called incomplete information," he said. "There's a difference." A pause. In the southern part, 3 weeks ago, a new type appeared. Not scavengers, tactical. Riv stopped. How do you know? Heard it through the forest. Mages don't hear through the forest. Forest mages do. She looked at him for a second. Then, tactical. That means? Tainted that hunt in a coordinated way. One drives out, the rest surround. A pause. A pack of 7 to 8 works as a single unit. C rank is a problem. You've seen them? No. Felt the movement pattern through the ground. He spoke carefully. Enough truth, not the whole truth, Riv thought. Tom behind them shifted, adjusted his sword. Are they at one of the 5 nests? Asked Sina. I don't know exactly, possibly the southernmost one. Then we'll start with the northern ones, said Riv. The southernmost last. We'll see what we understand by then. Reasonable. They moved on. Riv walked beside him now. Not alongside as an ally, alongside as a source of information she wasn't ready to ignore. Iron Root, she said quietly, not for everyone. Forest Mage, lives in the Grey Forest. E rank, new. A pause. You don't look like an E. I registered recently. And your rank is E. That's what the Perception Mage showed. Perception Mages measure potential and channel, said Riv, not experience. Your experience is different. Aaron walked. A year in the Grey Forest alone, he said. That gives a different kind of experience. Why alone? That's how it turned out. Riv looked at him with that expression he had learned to read in people. You're hiding something, but I don't know what yet. And as long as it's not dangerous, I won't push. All right, she said. They found the first nest 40 minutes later. Iron felt it before the others. Through the root networks, the vibration of small feet on the ground. He raised his hand. The group stopped. 30 meters behind the rocks, he said quietly. 18 individuals. 3 outside, the rest in the burrow. How did you count? Whispered Sina. Vibration. He looked at Riv. Take out the 3 outside quietly, Senna. Then the burrow. Riv nodded without questions. Quickly repositioned, signaled Senna with gestures. The archer moved right, soundlessly. 3 shots. 3 sounds. Not screams, just falls. Then noise from the burrow. The others had sensed it. Tom! The entrance, said Riv. Iron, right flank. Tom stepped toward the burrow with sword ready. Tainted burst from the ground. Small, with leathery wings folded along their bodies. Toothed, fast. A wave. Iron didn't reach for the words of power. He simply extended his hand. The undergrowth beside the burrow, young bushes within a 15-meter radius, responded. Branches lashed, grass rose, not attacking movements, blocking ones. The tainted became tangled in the suddenly animated vegetation. Tom worked with the sword methodically, without unnecessary movements. Riv, with her 2 blades, fast, precise. 15 seconds. Silence. Sina looked at the bushes that had just been moving. Is that your magic? She asked. Plant manipulation. Nature affinity. They moved like living things. They are living things, said Iron. They're just usually slow. Riv looked at the site of the fight. Then at him. Useful, she said. That was, judging by her tone, the highest praise in her vocabulary. System. XP plus 45. Group destroyed 18 scavenger tainted. Bonus. First team combat plus 10. Total. 3,055 over 5,000 to 5th evolution. 4 nests passed without serious problems. The 5th, the southernmost, was different. Iron felt it 200 meters out. The vibration. Not chaotic, structured. The pattern he had described to Riv. Tactical tainted. He had observed them through the root networks for 3 weeks, hadn't seen them, only felt them. Now he would see. He stopped the group. This one is different. Tactical? Asked Riv. Yes. A pause. And something else. Large. 1 in the center. Commander type. Commander type is D rank minimum, said Riv. Our contract is D, we're 4D, you're E? We'll manage, said Iron. But we need a plan. Riv looked at him. You already have a plan? Yes. Tell me. Aaron crouched, picked up a stick from the ground, drew a diagram right in the mud. Not perfectly, sufficiently. The commander keeps the pack in coordination, he explained. Destroy the pack without the commander. They become disoriented, but the commander will release the next wave. Destroy the commander first. The pack becomes uncontrollable, but attacks chaotically and all at once. A pause. We need to separate them. How? I create a barrier of vegetation. Divide the territory into 2 sectors. The pack in one, the commander in the other. Tom and Riv. The commander, quickly. Senna holds the pack with arrows while the barrier holds. I maintain the barrier and help where needed. Tom raised his gaze. For the first time all day he said something. Will the barrier hold? 1 minute, said Aaron. Is that enough? Riv and Tom exchanged glances. That's enough for us, said Riv. They approached from 3 sides. Aaron stood in the center. Hands lowered, palms to the ground, feeling the undergrowth. Word of power. Verdun. Growth. He spoke it quietly, on the exhale. Mana flowed from his palms into the ground, through the roots, into the plant manipulation radius. Grass rose, bushes shot upward, young saplings bent, forming a wall. Not beautiful, functional. The tainted pack, 7 individuals, was cut off from the commander. Riv and Tom entered the second sector. The commander type was larger than the rest. 120 at the shoulder, plated exoskeleton, 3 pairs of eyes. Saw the people and didn't charge. Froze. Assessing. Intelligent. Riv attacked first. Aaron held the barrier, felt the pack pressing against it from the other side, felt the plants bending under the weight of 7 bodies. Cena fired quickly, precisely, each arrow distracting one of the 7. 40 seconds. A sound of impact, heavy, metallic, from the second sector. Then silence. Done. Riv's voice. Aaron lowered the barrier. The plants fell. The pack without its commander froze for a second, then scattered, each in its own direction, in all directions. Senna finished off 2 from behind. Tom caught a 3rd. The remaining 4 dissolved into the forest. 20% got away, said Riv. Not a complaint, a fact. Without the commander, they're harmless, said Aaron. Solo scavengers, E-rank threat. I know. Riv was wiping her blades. Your barrier, is that second-level words of power? Modified first, he said. Standard Verdun gives growth of centimeters. I channel the mana deeper through the root system, accelerate growth from the base. Non-standard technique. Nature affinity allows it. Riv looked at him. Then at the barrier, which was now slowly settling back down, the grass and bushes returning to their normal appearance. Aaron, she said, do you want a permanent group? A pause. A permanent group. Not a one-time contract, regularly. That meant more time away from the edge, farther from the trunk, harder to maintain the radius. System. Note, the 5th evolution removes the avatar radius restriction. Until the 5th evolution, 1,945 XP remaining. At the current combat pace, approximately 6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. Temporary, said Aaron. Until I raise my rank. Until when? Until B, he said. Riv raised her eyebrows. Ambitious for an E. I know what I'm doing. She looked at him for a long time, then nodded. Agreed. Temporary. A pause. But work as permanent. Full share. Agreed. Tom nodded silently, as always. Cena shrugged. We need barrier magic. Our previous mage left for the capital. They walked back toward the city. Aaron walked last, felt the distance from the trunk decreasing with each step. The thread grew weaker, tension, then more even, then went slack entirely. The edge, the trunk. He glanced briefly at his own oak as they passed it, without stopping, without drawing attention. 7 leaves fell slowly, without wind. A greeting. He gave a slight nod of his head. Imperceptible to the others. 2 weeks in the group. Contracts. ED rank clearance. Once a reconnaissance at the border of the Grey Forest. Aaron was accumulating XP. Working in a group was more efficient. For fighting alongside allies, the system gave a coordination bonus. But a problem had appeared. In the guild, there was a perception mage, not the elderly one who had registered him. Another, young, with attentive eyes. Iron noticed his glances in the dining hall, at the contract board. He didn't approach, didn't speak, just watched. On the 9th day, he approached. Iron Root. Yes, perception mage, guild, 3rd level, he introduced himself. Name, Dar. Young, about 25, with runic tattoos on his wrists that helped focus perception. May I ask a question? Yes, your aura has changed over the past 2 weeks. Iron looked at him. What do you mean? At registration, nature affinity, mana volume large for an E non-standard channel. Dar spoke professionally, without accusations, for now. Now the aura is denser. The volume has grown, significantly. In 2 weeks, that's atypical for any rank. I practice a lot. Practice doesn't increase mana volume that quickly, said Dar. Volume is an innate parameter. It grows slowly, over years. A pause. Yours? Weeks, Iron thought quickly. He's right. Each evolution increases mana volume. A tree accumulates mana constantly. The avatar carries this within itself. The artifact conceals the appearance, not the aura. With forest mages, said Iron slowly, the channel is tied to a natural source. I live near the forest. Contact with the forest is constant replenishment. The volume grows through the natural source, not through practice. Dar looked. I've heard of such a mechanic, he said. Theoretically. 1 paragraph in the academy textbooks. A pause. You're confirming that you have a natural source? Yes. Where? The Grey Forest, said Iron. The western edge. That's where my trunk is. Trunk. The word came out before he could stop it. Dar raised an eyebrow. Trunk? Correct it. Anchor point, said Iron. Forest mages call the location of the source a trunk, a term from an old tradition. Dar looked at him. For a long time? Interesting, he said at last. I haven't heard that term before. Old tradition, rarely used. A pause. All right, said Dar. Thank you for the explanation. He walked away. Iron watched his back. He didn't fully believe it, but for now he accepted it. He needed to be more careful. Kyle appeared in Veldmar in the 3rd week, the Academy's summer holidays. He came to the guild and found Iron studying the contract boards. You look like an adventurer, said Kale. I am an adventurer, replied Iron. Kale looked him over with that mix of pride and bewilderment that he'd had since the first day they met. How is it? Does it work? It works. No one notices? One perception mage suspects something. Doesn't know what yet. And I keep my distance. Kale sat down beside him. Tell me. Aaron told him. Quietly, briefly. The group, the contracts. Dar with his questions. Riv, who doesn't ask unnecessary questions but notices everything. Rive Alder? Asked Kale. You know her? I know the name. She's a C rank who was demoted due to an incident 3 years ago. A pause. She killed a nobleman. They say accidentally. The court ruled accidentally. The guild demoted her rank as a measure. Another pause. They say he was a bad person. Iron thought about that. Riv killed a nobleman? Accidentally or not, the court decided. The guild punished. She keeps it inside herself. He had felt through 3 weeks of working together something dense beneath the surface. She doesn't talk about the past. Kale, he said. I need information about the rift. Which one? The southern one. The one that opened 112 years ago. What's happening with it now? Kale frowned. Why do you need it? Because the tainted in the Grey Forest are changing, said Aaron. 3 weeks ago, a tactical type appeared. They weren't here before. A pause. That's not a coincidence. You think the rift is expanding? I think something has changed inside it, Kyle thought. The Academy has a department of rift studies, he said. Professor Alton specializes. I can ask. Discreetly. I can ask questions discreetly. Kale. What? You're bad at discreet, said Iron. Your face thinks out loud. Kale opened his mouth. Closed it. I'm working on it, he said with dignity. 5 weeks, 12 contracts. He didn't count the tainted, The system counted. Dar watched him in the guild with growing professional curiosity but still said nothing. Riv once asked why he never ate at the tavern with the group. He said he preferred to eat alone. She accepted that. Tom said words to him for the first time not about business, brought a mug of warm cider after a difficult contract, set it down beside him, walked away. That was, apparently, his way of speaking. Sina talked about everything and nothing, about the city, about guild gossip, about how her younger brother had failed the entrance exam for the city guard and now wanted to become an adventurer. Iron listened and responded briefly, precisely. She seemed to value exactly that brevity. 5,000 XP. 5th evolution. Options: 1 full dryad. Stage 2. Avatar fully independent from the trunk. Radius: unlimited. The trunk is preserved as a home and mana reservoir, not as an anchor. Avatar appearance: controllable concealment without an artifact. Hides plant traits at will. Magic rank: C. New skill: Forest Echo. Telepathic connection with trees within a 500-meter radius. 2W or tree. Combat enhancement of the trunk. Direct control over large trees within a 100-meter radius as extensions of oneself. Avatar. Command role, not combat. Destructive power, high. Limitation: binding to the forest remains. 3 root of the world. Mystical enhancement. The trunk puts roots into the magical layers of the earth. Perception of magical sources. Global. Mana volume, doubles. Avatar, non-human, partial loss of concealment. He read the first option 3 times. Avatar fully independent. Concealment without an artifact. Magic rank. C. Unlimited radius. This was what he had been thinking about since the first day he understood the Avatar existed. Real freedom. Not 80 meters, not 100. Go where needed. Stay as long as needed. First, he said, the transformation happened at night. He stood by the trunk. The Avatar leaned against the bark. He felt how the thread, the one that had always been taut between the Avatar and the trunk, didn't snap, but changed. Became something else. Not a constraint, a bond. Like a thread between people who know each other. It exists, but doesn't hold. The Avatar stepped away from the trunk. 10 meters, 20, 50. The thread stretched far, endlessly, in the direction of the trunk. Not weakening. 100 meters. For the first time in a year and a half since rebirth, he walked 100 meters from his trunk and felt no weakness. He kept walking. 200, 300. The road into the city. Veldmar slept. Late night. Lights from taverns, guards at the gates, quiet streets. He walked through the city gates, no notifications, no restrictions. Iron stood in the middle of the sleeping Veldmar and felt the trunk at the forest's edge, far, quietly pulsing, like a heartbeat you hear, not with your ear but with your chest. Home, he thought. Everywhere I stand. Home. System. Dryad. Stage 2 activated. Radius restriction lifted. Concealment. Built-in, controllable. Trunk. Mana reservoir, home, anchor, not a cage. Magic rank, C, Forest Echo, active. Next threshold, 15,000 XP. The following morning, Dar approached again. Iron was sitting at a table in the guild studying new contracts. He sensed him before he even opened his mouth. Forest Echo worked even in the city. The trees along the streets transmitted the vibration of footsteps. Your disguise artifact, said Dar. You've taken it off. Aaron looked at his wrist. The bracelet was there. But the 5th evolution had given built-in concealment. The bracelet was now just a bracelet. No, the aura has changed, said Dar. Significantly. He sat down across from him without an invitation. I've been studying forest mages for the past 2 weeks. Books, academy archives. A pause. The term trunk as an anchor point doesn't exist in the literature. I checked. Iron looked at him. Old tradition, he repeated. Oral? Not written? Dar looked directly at him. Iron. I'm a 3rd-level perception mage. I sense auras. Yours is nature-based, that's true. But it's not human. Mana volume, C rank minimum at E registration. Channel, not through a personal arcane. Through something external. A pause. I don't know what you are, but I know you're not a standard forest mage. Silence. Aaron thought. Dar is a professional. He'll keep digging. If given an incomplete answer, he'll find the complete one himself. If given the truth, unknown how he'll react. If given nothing, he'll become an enemy out of curiosity. Dar, he said, if I tell you the truth, will you use it against me? Dar looked. For a long time. No, he said at last. I'm a perception mage, not an anomaly hunter. My job is guild security. If you're not a threat to the guild, it's none of my business, and if what I tell you is strange. I'm a perception mage, Dar repeated. I've seen strange things. Not this strange. A pause. Try to surprise me. Iron looked at him for a second, then removed the built-in concealment. Not completely, partially. The eyes changed. The whites disappeared, pupils vertical, dark green. The skin on his wrists, a faint pattern of bark beneath the surface, almost invisible. 2 seconds, then he brought it back. Dar didn't move, didn't flinch, just looked, with the expression of someone who had received an answer to the question they had been asking and was now formulating the next one. A dryad? He said at last. Closer, said Iron. Closer than a dryad. I'm in the process, Dar thought. Trunk, he said slowly. Anchor point. That's literally the trunk of a tree. Yes, you're a tree. I'm a tree that is evolving into a dryad. A long pause. And you're registering with the guild as an E-rank forest mage. The mana channel through the root system is technically forest magic. Rank E. What perception showed at registration? A pause. I didn't lie about the categories. I didn't disclose the nature. Dar looked at him. Why did you come to the guild? I want to understand the world, said Iron. I want to help. And the tainted in the gray forest are growing in number. Something is changing with the rift. That concerns everyone. The tainted in the gray forest are growing in number, Dar repeated. Are you certain? I feel the forest through the roots. A year and a half. 3 months ago. A change. A pause. Have you heard anything from the guild? Yes, said Dar. Not officially. Reports from the southern outposts speak of new types of tainted. Commander class. The academy denies any changes. A pause. They say the government has no resources for a new campaign against the rift. Then we have a problem, said Iron. Dar looked at him. You say we. This is my forest, said Aaron. And this is your city. A pause. That's why. We. Silence in the guild's dining hall. Around them, adventurers, conversations, the clinking of mugs. No one was watching. I won't report it, said Dar at last. For now. A pause. But if you're a threat, I'll be the first against you. Fair. And I want to know what's happening with the rift. So do I. They looked at each other. Then we have a deal, said Dar. Kale came 4 days after the conversation with Dar. Quick stride, with the look of someone who has bad news and is trying to word it better. Professor Alton, he said. I asked discreetly. How discreetly? Discreetly enough. A pause. Almost. Another pause. He suspects I'm not asking for academic reasons, but doesn't know why. Kale sat down, lowered his voice. The rift. 3 months ago, they recorded the activation of a secondary node inside it. What does secondary node mean? Rifts aren't just holes in space, said Kale. They're structures. There's a hierarchy inside. The primary node is the source. It opened 112 years ago. A secondary node is when the rift begins to self-organize. A pause. Alton said that a secondary node means the emergence of a commander. A commander. A tainted of S rank, said Kale. Not the tactical type. Strategic. He looked at Aaron. Alton said that the last time a secondary node activated was 70 years ago. Back then, the commander came out of the rift and destroyed 3 cities before it was stopped. Silence. How long until it emerges? Asked Aaron. Alton doesn't know exactly. He says anywhere from 3 months to half a year from the moment of node activation. A pause. The activation was 3 months ago, so anywhere from 0 to 3 months. Yes, Aaron thought. S-rank commander. 3 cities 70 years ago. The guild doesn't officially know about the secondary node, or knows and is silent. The academy knows, is silent. Does the government know? Alton says they do. Kale looked at the table. And they don't want panic until the commander emerges. Yes, and then it will be too late not to panic. Yes, Iron rose. Let's go to Riv, he said. Why? Because she's a C rank with experience and 2 blades, and she isn't afraid of doing what needs to be done, said Iron. And because we need a team. Kale looked at him. You want to go to the Rift. I want to understand what will come out of it before it reaches Veldmar, said Iron. Those are different things, not very different to me. Kyle. What? Are you coming? Kyle looked at him with the expression people wear when looking at decisions they've already made but haven't yet admitted aloud. I'm coming, he said. Of course I'm coming. A pause. But it's a bad idea. Most good things started as bad ideas, said Iron. That sounds like something smart, but actually isn't. No, agreed Iron. But it sounds good. Kyle left. Riv listened to everything. She sat motionless, mug in her hands that she wasn't drinking from. Tom beside her, silent as usual, but fingers on the hilt of his sword. Cena, S-rank commander. There are 6 of us. EEDDDC. A pause. We'll die. We're not going to kill it, said Aaron. We're going to scout. Understand what's coming and when. That information is needed by the guild to organize a defense. The guild should handle it themselves. The guild doesn't officially know about the secondary node, said Dar. He was sitting in the corner. Iron had invited him, he came without questions. If the information comes through an official channel, it will be buried. If it comes through adventurers with direct reconnaissance data, harder to bury. Riv looked at Dar. You're a guild perception mage. Yes. You're suggesting going against the guild's position. I'm suggesting giving the guild information it won't be able to ignore, said Dar. There's a difference, Riv thought. For a long time, with the expression he rarely saw on her. Not an assessment of threat. Something personal. 3 years ago, she said at last quietly. Village of Al, 2 days' ride to the south. Tainted attacked at night. The guild received a warning a week in advance from a local hunter. A pause. It was buried. Not enough resources for a contract. Another pause. The village no longer exists. Silence. The nobleman who died 3 years ago, said Iron. He was part of that chain. Riv looked at him. Kale told you. Yes. And you still called on me. That's exactly why I called on you. Riv looked at him for a long time. Iron thought, she looks like someone who has spent 3 years waiting for the chance to do this right. We leave tomorrow morning, said Riv. Everyone takes 5 days of supplies. Mages, maximum mana reservoir before departure. She looked at Iron. You lead through the forest. Yes, the boundary of the rift. Stop, assess, report. No heroics. Agreed. Iron. Yes, you know the Grey Forest better than any of us. A pause. If there's a moment when you need to do something strange, warn us in advance. Don't put us in front of a fait accompli. He looked at her. She knows he's different. Doesn't know how, but knows. Agreed, he said. Riv nodded. Then go home. At the gates in the morning. Everyone rose. Kyle last, with the look of someone mentally writing a will. Iron caught his gaze. Everything will be fine, he said. You say that with confidence for a tree, said Kale. Trees live long, replied Iron. Optimism comes with age. You're a year and a half old. The tree is 47. Kyle closed his eyes for a second. That's not funny. A little funny. Kale left. Aaron watched his back. Through forest echo, felt his steps on the cobblestones. On the stones where small blades of grass grow in the cracks. Through them further, into the soil, downward. The whole city is alive. Every tree along the street, every bush in the gardens, every blade of grass between the stones. None of it was alive in the sense of consciousness. But all of it was his. Part of him. He walked toward the edge, to the trunk, to the roots, to the first home. Tomorrow, the rift. System. XP. 6,240 over 15,000. a long way to the 6th evolution. Note: the path to the rift will pass through zones of high tainted concentration. Potential XP for the expedition, significant. Also recorded, the bearer has assembled a group of allies. Condition of the roots of life system. The bearer's strength grows in proportion to the depth of bonds. Current bonds: Riv, Tom, Sina, Kale, Dar. Recorded as significant. XP bonus for battles with allies. Times 1.5. Iron stopped. Reread the last block. Roots of life. Strength grows in proportion to the depth of bonds. He thought about this, about the fact that the tree's system worked differently than he had assumed. Not only to kill, not only to evolve, to grow. Trees don't grow because they win. They grow because they root deeper, wider, in different directions. Roots find water not through force, through seeking. Roots of life, thought Lee Junho, in the body of a tree, in the body of an avatar walking toward his trunk in the night forest. So it's right. The trunk met him in the darkness. Warm, alive, smelling of earth and pine needles and something of its own. The avatar leaned against the bark. Tomorrow, the rift, the commander, 6 against the unknown. Tonight, the night, the forest, the silence. Enough. That same night, deep in the gray forest, 30 kilometers to the south, something large opened its eyes. Not a tainted of the tactical class, not a commander type, something else. It sensed through the ground. A tree at the edge of the forest. A tree with a human mind. A tree that was growing wrong. Too fast, too deliberately. It didn't know what this was, but it remembered. And in the morning, it turned toward the north. They set out at dawn. 6, Riv in front, Tom and Sina on the flanks, Kale and Dar in the center, Aaron slightly behind. Not because he was weaker, because through the forest, he felt farther than he could see, and he worked better as a rearguard who knew what was behind. The gray forest received each of them differently. Riv, warily, hand always near the hilt. Tom, methodically, gaze scanning every 20 meters. Sina, nervously, bow in hand, arrow on the string, commenting under her breath on everything she sees, most likely to avoid silence. Kale, with the look of a student who knows the theory but doesn't want to test it in practice. Dar, calmly, like someone accustomed to perceiving the world through layers others don't see. Aaron walked and listened to the forest. Forest echo worked differently here than at the edge. Not individual trees, but a network. Each tree passed signals to its neighbor, those further on. He heard within a radius of several hundred meters. Movement, weight, vibration. And felt the change. With each kilometer south, the forest changed. Not visibly, internally. The trees here grew more slowly. Forest echo conveyed not the vitality of healthy growth, but something dulled, suppressed. The soil at the roots was different, saturated with magic, but dark, viscous, not nourishing, but slowing. Corruption in the ground, he realized, not only in creatures, in the soil. Riv, he said quietly. She turned. The corruption is coming from below, he said, through the soil. The trees here are suppressed. A pause. That means any mage with nature affinity will work worse with every kilometer south. You too? I use my own mana, he said. I don't draw from the earth. A pause. But Kale does. Kale, hearing his name, turned around. Your channel runs through the earth, Iron told him. The earth here is poisoned by corruption. Don't use it to replenish your reservoir. Only spend what you took this morning at the edge. Kyle looked at him. Then at the ground. I can feel it, he said. I thought it was my imagination. It wasn't. How long until my mana runs out? Depends on expenditure. A pause. Conserve. I'm trying not to worry, said Kale. It's hard. I know. They walked on. Dar touched Iron's wrist in motion. A gesture of request, not words. Iron understood. Gave a slight nod. Dar removed his hand and continued walking with the same calm expression. Dar can sense the aura of the earth, thought Iron. A third-level perception mage. He sees what others don't. Good that he's with us. The system warned 30 seconds before contact. Movement. Group of tainted, 14 individuals, 45 meters, east. Tactical type, commander subtype. Ambush. Stop, said Iron. The group halted instantly, Riv already with her blades drawn. East. 45 meters, he said quietly. 14. A commander type among them. They're waiting for us. Ambush, said Riv. Not a question. Yes. They knew we were coming. The forest transmits vibration. They sense footsteps through the ground, Iron thought. 3 options. Go around. They'll reposition. We'll lose time. Retreat. They'll pursue. Attack first. We lose the element of surprise, which we don't have anyway. A 4th option? Asked Sina. I go alone. The rest wait. Riv looked at him. No. I won't die, said Aaron. You're E rank against 14 tactical and a commander type. I'm a forest mage in a forest, he said. That's different. Riv looked. Tom looked. Sina behind them. You could hear her not breathing. 1 minute, said Riv. Then we come in. Enough. He went east. 45 meters. He counted them through forest echo, felt every paw on the ground, every body. 14. The tactical commander, larger, heavier, holding position in the center. They saw him, he knew that. Heard how they repositioned, how the commander signaled the flanks to close in. Professional ambush, he noted. Smart. They adapt. He stopped at 20 meters, spoke quietly, almost on the exhale. Virdencore. Word of power, 2nd level. Deep growth. The trees around the ambush responded immediately. Not quickly. Trees are never quick. But enough. The roots near the surface rose. The earth buckled in the zone where the tainted stood. Several creatures lost their footing. Branches began to descend slowly, like a falling person dropping their head in sleep. That wasn't enough to kill. Enough to bind. The tainted grew restless. The commander gave a different signal. They began tearing free from the roots. Iron didn't interfere. Instead, he raised his hands, palms down, and spoke the 2nd word. Erdus. Earth. Mana flowed downward, through his palms, through the air between him and the soil, not through the earth but through himself. His mana. Clean, nature-based, not corrupted by taint. The earth beneath the tainted responded to it like to an antidote. Shuddered, roots came alive stronger. 3 creatures fell and didn't rise. The roots held. The commander finally moved toward him personally. Large, 140 at the shoulder, exoskeleton with magical inserts, 4 eyes moving independently. Fast, not for its size, for any size. Riv without preparation wouldn't have kept up. Iron kept up. Not because he was faster, because he didn't move. He didn't step out of the commander's path. He simply released the Virden and redirected the mana into the branches of the nearest tree above the commander. A branch, thick, a meter in diameter, fell straight down, not lethally. But the commander collapsed under the weight. The exoskeleton cracked on one side. Iron approached. Spoke the final word. Virdus Ru, root piercing. Quietly, precisely. Silence. System. XP plus 180. Commander type destroyed. Tactical group disoriented. He turned around. Riv stood 5 meters away looking at him. Behind her, the others. They had come before the minute was up. 50 seconds, said Riv. You said a minute. I lied. They looked at each other. You're a forest mage, she said. Yes. Who doesn't need us? No, said Iron. I do. A pause. Just differently. Riv looked, then sheathed her blades. Further, she said, the boundary of the rift didn't look like a boundary. There was no wall, no line, no marker. Simply, at some point the forest ended. Not because it had been cleared, because the trees here had died long ago and stood gray, without bark, without leaves, like the bones of fingers raised from the earth. The soil was dark, almost black. No grass. Corruption crystals jutted from the ground here and there, small, angular, with an inner glow the color of congealed blood. The air smelled of metal and something sweet that was not sweet. They stopped at the edge of the dead forest. The boundary, said Iron. I see it, said Riv. Dar was already working. Eyes closed, the tattoos on his wrists glowing. Perceiving. Magic background, he said after 30 seconds. High. Corruption saturates the air, not lethally, but prolonged exposure is not recommended. A pause. There, in the center. He opened his eyes, pointed straight ahead. A source. Large. The rift, said Kale. The rift, yes, but beside it, another source. Living. It breathes. Silence. The commander, said Iron. I'm not certain. This kind of aura is unfamiliar to me. Dar spoke carefully. But something S-rank. Yes. How close to the boundary? A kilometer. Maybe a kilometer and a half. Aaron looked at the dead forest. Through forest echo. Silence here. The dead trees transmitted nothing. It was like sudden deafness, having grown accustomed to hearing the forest constantly, then suddenly receiving emptiness. I need to go in, he said. No, immediately from Revi. Not to the commander, said Iron. 200 meters closer. I need to feel it through the ground. The ground here is dead. The ground is ground everywhere. A pause. Corruption has contaminated it, not killed it. I'll feel through it if I go deep enough with mana. What will you get? An understanding of the type, the direction of movement, when it will emerge. If soon, I'll feel the mana concentration building toward the exit point. A pause. That's exactly the information the guild needs, Riv thought. Tom goes with you, she said. Tom won't help if… Tom goes with you, she repeated. Iron looked at Tom. He stood silent, as always. Nodded. All right, said Iron. The dead forest was silent in the sense of forest echo, but not in the sense of sound. Something was moving in the distance, heavily, rhythmically. Something small rustled beneath the corruption crystals. Somewhere very far away, a sound that shouldn't exist in a forest. Low, resonant, like a strike against an enormous drum. Once, then silence. Then again. What is that? Tom quietly. His first words all day that weren't about business. I don't know yet, said Aaron, 200 meters from the edge. He stopped, crouched, placed both palms on the black earth. The soil accepted his mana reluctantly. The way water accepts oil, along the surface, not inside. The corruption repelled it. He pressed harder, not through words of power, simply through contact, through the fact that he was a tree, and trees knew how to speak with the earth in a language without words. Slower, quieter, without force, just presence. The earth opened, not fully. A crack, not a door. But through the crack he felt depth. The rift went down hundreds of meters, not physically, magically. Like a wound not on the skin, but in the very structure of space. Movement. Something large inside was moving slowly, in circles. Like an animal in a cage that has long since stopped testing the bars but hasn't stopped pacing. And concentration. The mana inside the rift was gathering not chaotically, directionally, toward a single point. The point was, he calculated through the pulsation on the ascent. Rising. 3 days, said Aaron quietly. To himself, then to Tom. 4 at most. It emerges in 3 to 4 days. Tom didn't ask how he knew, just nodded. We go, they turned. And at that moment, the sound. That same one, low, resonant, but closer. Much closer. Once, the ground beneath their feet vibrated for a second. Then, the corruption crystals around them flared. All at once, simultaneously, that same color of congealed blood. Then went dark. Silence. Run, said Aaron. Tom was already running. They reached the others in 2 minutes. Riv saw their faces immediately. What? 3 days, said Iron. The commander emerges in 3 days, 4 at most. A pause. And it sensed us. How do you know? The corruption crystals activated. That's a signal network inside the rift. Something outside drew its attention. Will it come for us? Not now. It's still inside. A pause. But it remembered where we are. Riv looked at him for a second. Then, we return. Quickly. No one argued. They returned to Veldmar at sunset on the second day, faster than they had gone out. Not running, but the pace was different. The forest saw them off in silence. Aaron felt that the corruption in the soil had intensified even over a day. Insignificantly, but measurably. It's rising. Dar went straight to the guild, to the master, without an appointment, without preliminary conversation. Riv went with him for weight. Her C rank meant more than the words of a perception mage in the bureaucratic hierarchy. Kyle, to the academy, to Professor Alton. With concrete data, time of emergence, nature of the aura, concentration of corruption in the soil. Iron stayed outside the guild, at the wall, in the darkness where one lantern burned. Tom stood beside him. They were silent. Then Tom said, "Back there, in the dead forest, you put your hands on the ground and you heard." "Yes." "Another mage couldn't have done that." "No, you're not another mage." A pause. "No," said Aaron. Tom looked at the lantern. "For a long time." "Not my business," he said. "You're not a threat to us. That's enough." Aaron looked at him. "You've known for a long time. Since the first day?" A pause. "You don't move like a mage. Mages draw from air or earth. Your mana is already in your hands, always." Another pause. "I'm a warrior. 20 years. I see where strength comes from. And you said nothing." Riv said nothing. "I did too." Aaron thought about that. Riv knows too. Riv knows you're different. Doesn't know exactly what. Tom turned to him. "Will you tell her? When the time comes?" "Is the commander that time?" "Possibly." Tom nodded, made a move to leave, then stopped. Aaron. "Yes, a tree that walks and talks," he said. "Strange." A pause, but useful. That was, apparently, his form of praise. Dar came out of the guild an hour later. Riv followed. Her face was such that Iron understood instantly. The conversation had gone badly. "The guild master received the information," said Dar. "Logged it. Sent a request to the capital." A pause. "The response will come in 7 days. We have 3 days." He knows. Dar's voice was even. Professionally even. With something else behind it. He says, "Without confirmation from the capital, an official evacuation is impossible. Panic, economic consequences, liability. 3 cities died 70 years ago," said Aaron. He pointed out that 70 years ago the commander was stopped. "After 3 cities." "Yes." Silence by the lantern. "So, nothing officially," said Aaron. "Officially, a request to the capital." Dar put his hands in his pockets. "Unofficially, I've already sent a personal letter to my teacher at the academy in the capital. He's an A-rank perception mage, advisor to the Council of Guilds." A pause. "But even he won't be able to react in 3 days." "Kyle?" "He'll return in the morning." Alton accepted the information. Says the data matches his models. "Will insist on an emergency department session by the morning of the next day." "Yes?" "And the commander emerges in 3 days." "Or sooner," said Dar. 3 days is an estimate. Could be 2. Riv had been silent all this time, looking at Iron. Then, "What do you think you'll do?" "I'm thinking," said Iron slowly, "that we have 1 day, tomorrow, while officials are writing requests and professors are in session. We can do what's possible." "What is possible?" "Warn the villages in the commander's path." He looked at Riv. "How many villages are there between the Grey Forest and Veldmar?" 3. She answered instantly, meaning she had already been thinking about it. "Al, Vern, Kost. The nearest one is 10 kilometers to the south. People who leave on their own will survive." A pause. "We can't stop the commander. But we can get people out of its path." "They won't listen to us," said Senna. She stood slightly to the side, listening. 6 adventurers telling a village to run, laughable. An E rank telling a village to run, especially laughable. "A C rank says it," said Riv. "They know me in the southern villages. After that incident, precisely after it." Riv looked steadily. "I killed the nobleman who ordered the warning about Al to be buried. People know about that. In the south they know." Silence. "Then you go," said Aaron. "I go. Tom with me and Sina." Dar, to the academy, to support Kale at the session. Your perception is direct data, not theory. Understood. You stay at the forest, said Riv. Not a question. Yes. Because if the commander emerges earlier, you'll sense it. Yes. And because you're stronger at the forest. Yes. Riv looked at him. Iron. If it emerges while we're in the villages, I'll give a signal. How? Forest echo. Through the trees along the road. A pause. Trees grow along the entire road south. I'll sense it. If the trees are dead near the rift, the living ones start 2 kilometers out. Enough. Riv thought for a second. Then, we leave tomorrow at dawn. Each in their own direction. They dispersed quickly, each to their own side. Iron went to the edge, to the trunk, lay down at the roots. The avatar leaned against the bark, hands in the earth. Began to listen. South. What is happening to the south? Forest echo carried evenly, without alarm. For now, but at the very edge of the range, where the living trees bordered the dead ones, something. Not a sound, not movement, pressure, like air before a storm, like water before a dam breaks. Soon, he thought. Very soon. Kyle came at midnight, sat down beside the trunk. Just like that, without preamble. Was quiet for a while. Alton says the data is accurate, he said. Says 3 days or less. I know. The session is in the morning. I'll speak. Dar will come. A pause. Aaron. Yes. We can't stop an S-rank tainted. No. Then what are we doing? Iron thought. We give people time to leave, he said. We pass information to those who have the strength to stop it. A pause. And I stay here. You have something planned. I'm thinking, said Aaron slowly, that the commander moves through the forest, that the forest is mine. A pause. Not in the sense of ownership, in the sense that I'm part of it and it's part of me, and I can do things with it that a standard mage cannot. You can slow it down, not stop. Slow down, possibly. For a time. How long? I don't know. Depends on how intelligent it is and how much stronger I am than I think. Kyle looked at him. That sounds like a plan that ends badly. All plans against S-rank end badly, said Iron. The difference is how badly. That sounds smart again, but actually… Kale. What? Thank you, said Aaron. Kale went quiet. For what? For the clearing, said Aaron. For coming. For the academy textbooks and for explaining the double seal for 4 hours until I understood. For the transplanting. A pause. For being the first to speak to me like a person, not like a tree. Kyle looked at him. You are a person, he said. Just with roots. Literally. I know. Kale smiled, nervously but genuinely. Iron. Don't die. Trees live long. That's not an answer. I'll try not to die, said Iron. That's the best answer there is. Kyle rose. Stood for a second, then placed his hand on the bark of the trunk. Not on the avatar, on the tree itself. Tomorrow morning. The academy, he said. I'll do what I can. I know. Kyle left. Iron remained alone, avatar and trunk, one being in 2 forms, at the edge of the forest that was becoming dead somewhere to the south. System. XP. 8,820 over 15,000. Until the 6th evolution. 6,180. Note. The bearer has demonstrated bonds deep enough to activate the roots of life. Bonus multiplier times 1.5 confirmed for all allied interactions. Current recorded bonds. Riv. Trust. Tom. Respect. Senna. Acceptance. Kale. Friendship. Dar. Alliance. Roots of life system. Note. The strength of a tree is measured not by its height, but by the depth of its roots. The bearer is deepening correctly. He read this for a long time, then dismissed it, placed both hands into the earth, deep until it ached at the wrists. Felt the forest, all of it, within the range of forest echo. Every tree, every root, every thread of life in the ground. Listen, he said to the forest, not aloud, from within. Tomorrow something large will come. Listen and carry it forward. The forest, alive, silent, eternal, listened. At dawn, forest echo changed. He felt it still in a state of half-sleep. Not sleep in the human sense, but a state of half-immersion where the avatar is still, but consciousness works through the trunk and roots. The change came from the south. The pressure he had felt during the night had grown sharper. Sharper. More directed. It's waking, he understood. It's waking up. System. Warning. Mana concentration in the rift zone. Rising. Direction, north. Probability of emergence. Estimated time revised. New estimate, today. 8 to 12 hours. Aaron opened his eyes. Dawn was only just beginning. Gray, pink at the edges, quiet. 8 hours, not 3 days. Today. He rose, quickly. Through forest echo, through the trees along the southern road, he found the vibration of Riv's footsteps. They were still walking. Hadn't reached the first village yet. He needed to warn them. He found a tree by the road, an old ash, sturdy, deep roots. Entered it through forest echo, not as his own body but as a tool. The ash accepted his presence. Trees no longer resisted him. Since the fifth evolution, it had become natural. Through the ash to the next tree, through it to the next. Along the road, step by step through the root network. This required concentration and more mana than he had spent before. But the trunk at the edge provided a constant flow. He was the source. Found an ash near the road, 5 meters from where Riv, Tom, and Sina were walking. Felt the vibration of their footsteps through the roots. And did what no mage could do. Made the roots of the ash at the surface of the road beat out a rhythm. 3 strikes, pause, 3 strikes. Their signal. They had agreed on it the day before. The footsteps stopped. "That's Iron," said Riv's voice. Quietly, to the tree, understanding. "We hear you." "What?" He couldn't speak through the tree, only rhythm. 2 strikes, danger. Then 4, quickly, urgent. Then 2 again. Riv understood. Urgent danger. A pause. "The commander emerges today?" 3 strikes. "Yes." "How much time?" He beat 8 strikes. Slowly. She understood. 8 hours. "We won't have time to warn all 3 villages." 2 strikes. "Yes, you won't." Then 6. A number. 1 village, the first one. "Only the first village?" 3 strikes. "Understood. We go to Al, the nearest. The others." Silence. Then, "Aaron, can you slow it down in the forest?" He thought for a second. 3 strikes. "Yes." "How long?" He didn't know exactly. Beat slowly. 4, then a pause, then 4 again. 4 by 4. She didn't understand that rhythm. "No, he beat 2. "Not that." 4 hours? 3. "Yes, 4 hours of delay. That's enough for 1 village if we run." A pause. "All right. Iron. Don't die." The root. Beat 3 strikes. The footsteps moved off quickly, almost a run. He released the ash, returned to himself. 8 hours. 7. Iron stood at the edge, the avatar, the bark of the trunk at his back, hands in the earth. Listened. The forest to the south was silent. The dead trees transmitted nothing. But the boundary between the living and the dead, he felt it there. There, the pressure was building with each hour. 6 hours. System. Skill. Forest. Echo expanded. With both hands in contact with the soil. Radius. 800 meters. Current usage. Maximum. He stretched as far as he could, further and further south through the living trees. He felt the moment the rift opened. Not with an explosion. Not with light. Quietly. The way a door opens that has been held shut for a long time. The pressure simply disappeared. And in the place where it had been, something else appeared. A presence. Large. Cold. Old. It didn't move for the first minute. It stood there, outside the rift, in the dead forest. As if orienting itself to something. Then it began to move. North. Toward Veldmar. Iron rose. 4 hours of delay. Riv is still in the village. Time is needed. He entered the forest with the avatar, leaving the trunk at the edge. The bond thread, long, through the entire forest to the south. Mana flowed through it like blood. He walked toward the commander. He placed the first barrier 2 kilometers from the edge. Not roots, not branches. That's for small ones. Trees, whole trees, old, a meter in diameter, with roots going tens of meters down. He asked them, didn't command, asked, to fall across the path. The trees fell slowly. The forest doesn't know how to be fast, but he knew how to control 5 at once. 5 old oaks crashed across the commander's direction of movement, one after another, 30 meters apart. A blockade of 5 trunks a meter thick covered a strip 200 meters wide. System, skill, plant manipulation, critical usage. Mana expenditure, high. Warning, at current expenditure. 3 hours until reservoir exhaustion. Reservoir replenishes through the trunk at the edge. Current replenishment rate, insufficient to compensate expenditure. Recommendation, reduce intensity. No, he said aloud. A second barrier half a kilometer on, 5 more trees, then a third, a fourth. He felt the commander through the ground. It was overcoming the blockades. Not slowly with effort, but overcoming them. The corruption's magic destroyed the wood. Aaron felt how the trunks he had laid down blackened and crumbled under its influence. But time was passing. 1 hour. 2. In the 3rd hour, he saw the commander for the first time, not through the ground, with his eyes. It came out from behind the blockade, snapped the last trunk of the barrier like a twig and stopped. Iron stood 50 meters away. The commander was large. Not simply large, monstrously so. 4 meters tall, 6 meters long, on 6 limbs. The exoskeleton, not plated like the commander type, but monolithic, coal black with red veins. The same as in the corruption crystals. 3 pairs of eyes, all looking at him. Not as a threat, as a curious object. It remembered him. From the night the crystals had flared. A tree that walks. It was readable in how it looked. Without words, without language. Just recognition. Iron stood. The mana in him almost at its limit. The reservoir was dropping fast, the trunk was replenishing, but not enough. System. Warning. Mana, 18%, critical level. Additionally, Commander. Rank S. Direct confrontation inadvisable. Delay achieved, 2 hours 47 minutes. He needed 13 more minutes. The commander began to move. Slowly, assessingly. Not attacking, studying. It's intelligent, Iron understood. It's thinking. That was worse than if it had attacked. Iron dropped to one knee. Both hands into the ground. The last mana reserve. Everything that remained. He spoke not one word of power, not 2. 7, simultaneously, in a chain he had been building mentally for 3 hours while walking here. Virden erdas kor virdas ru eten dor. Growth, earth, depth, piercing, strength, bond. The last word, door, he had learned recently. From a book Kale had brought. Archaic, not used in the academy, unity. The earth shuddered. Not beneath his feet, around the commander. Beneath its 6 limbs. The roots, all that were within a 30-meter radius, shot upward simultaneously. Not thin signal roots, thick, load-bearing roots of old trees, each one as thick as an arm. The commander didn't fall. But it stopped. For 5 seconds, 10, 15. It tore its limbs free from the root holds. The roots snapped, but new ones followed. System. Mana 3%. Critical. 17 seconds. 20. The roots began to snap faster. The commander had found the rhythm. 1 limb pulls free. Wait on 5, 2 steps forward, seized again. 30 seconds. 3 hours and 30 seconds of delay. Enough. Mana dropped to 0. Iron felt forest echo fade. Not completely, to a minimum. The avatar swayed. Without mana, it held only on physical form, without magical support. The commander freed its last limb. It looked at him. And at that moment, from the north, a sound. Not the low resonant strike of corruption. A different one. A bell. Loud, clean, magically amplified. Then a second. A third. Then light from the northwest. White, bright, with a blue edge. Aaron looked over his shoulder. From behind the trees, figures. Not 6 adventurers. More. Far more. In armor with crests, with magical staves, with weapons that glowed. At their head, a tall woman in a white cloak. Aura enormous, clean, S rank. Dar, Aaron understood. Dar's teacher, the advisor to the Council of Guilds. He made it in time. The woman in the white cloak looked at the commander. Then at Aaron, standing between them on his knees with his hands in the earth and an empty mana reservoir. You held it? She asked. 3.5 hours, said Aaron. A pause. Alone? E rank. I'm not quite E rank, he said. The advisor looked at him for a second, then at the commander, which had begun to move again. We'll talk later, she said. Step back. He stepped back. The advisor raised her staff, and what followed was what was called S rank against S rank. The air hummed. The trees around them bent. The earth moved in waves. Aaron made it to the nearest living tree, an old birch, not his, unfamiliar, and leaned his back against it, closed his eyes, felt through the roots, the trunk at the edge, far but perceptible, pulsing steadily, alive, still alive. The system, quietly, XP plus 890. Delay of S rank. Commander, unique achievement. Awarded, total, 9,710 over 15,000. Roots of life condition, tested in crisis, confirmed. Bonus to next evolution, plus 15% of base parameters. Additional notification, bearer noticed by S rank entity, enemy. Noticed by S rank entity, ally. Reputation, recorded. The world is learning about a tree that walks. He read this with his eyes closed and heard behind him the battle unfolding that would change the history of this place. The forest around him, alive, his, part of him, rustled its branches. Not from the wind, just rustled. First epilogue. 3 days later, Kale found him at the trunk at the edge. The avatar was sitting at the roots, recharging, just sitting, and letting the trunk replenish what had been spent. It required time. 3 days, and the mana still wasn't full. The commander was destroyed, said Kale. Advisor Eris. 2 hours of fighting after you held it. I know. I heard through the forest. All 3 villages were evacuated, said Kale. Al, completely. Vern, 80%. Cost. They didn't make it in time, but there was a warning from Riv's messenger. Some of the people left on their own. How many dead? 14, said Kale. Quietly. In cost. Those who didn't believe. Iron was silent. 14, not 0, but not 3 cities. Advisor Aris wants to see you, said Kale. Officially. A pause. She knows you're not an E-rank forest mage. What does she know? That you held an S rank for 3.5 hours alone. A pause. She says the Council of Guilds needs to know about something like that. Dangerous. Yes? Kale sat down beside him. Iron. If you refuse to meet, she won't insist. I found out. She's not an enemy, but she'll know you're hiding something. A pause. If you agree, you need to say something to her. The truth. Kale looked at him. You're going to tell an S-rank advisor of the Council of Guilds that you're a tree. I'll tell her that I'm a dryad in the process of becoming, said Iron, that I was reborn, that I have an evolution system. A pause. And that a second secondary node has activated at the rift. What? I felt it on the way back, said Iron. The commander was the first, not the last. He looked at Kale. The rift didn't close. It just got quieter for a time. Kale looked at him for a long time. How much time? A month? Maybe 2? A pause, then the next one. The forest rustled. Calmly, evenly. Then the meeting with the advisor is important, said Kale at last. Yes? Are you not afraid? Aaron thought. No, he said. I was reborn as a tree, lived without speech, without movement, without hands for 1.5 years. Grew a head, in the sense of a face, grew hands, grew the ability to walk and talk. A pause. Advisor Aris is simply a person with a large amount of mana. Kale looked at him. You said grew a head as if that were normal. For a tree, yes, you're not a tree anymore. I'm always a tree, said Iron, just a tree that evolves. Kale shook his head with that expression Iron had learned to read over a year and a half. Not irritation, affection,